to the people.
Introduce the video.
All right, Liz.
Hello there. Good morrow to y'all. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to another Lost to Plot video. Today we're going to do another best of series. I think it will be episode number 4, and we're going to talk about villains. But before we do that, we are going to go to James and his unpopular opinion, as always.
Good day.
Good day.
Right. Don't know how you're all going to take this one. I think that's usually the case. That's the whole point, isn't it?
The whole point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd see it recently, seeing in an article about it, and it made me think. It's like, yeah, actually, you know what? I think you're right. Given the chance and a good script and good movie to work with, George Clooney could have actually been an alright Batman. What do we think? I think he had a chance.
Really?
He had a chance.
I think out of the possibly one of the worst castings ever.
Fair play.
Because don't get me wrong, I don't mind George Clooney. Yeah, he's good at what he does, but he's not one you'd ever look at and go,
No.
Batman. And even in the Batman suit and acting wise, I'm just like, no. Because even if the script's shit, the actor can still flourish in the way they act. But I felt like I didn't like it. I felt uncomfortable.
Fair play.
I think I could kind of see him as an old Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, I'm just like...
Yeah, it's the Bruce Wayne, but
Yeah.
that's why I was probably agreeing.
Yeah.
I was just thinking because it just seems like that was the whole point. It's like, oh, let's pick like the movie star that everyone thinks of.
Did you know Val Kilmer was supposed to be in it till right at the last minute before they started filming? He was chosen right at the last minute. Apparently.
Really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
he'd got really cocky and took on other jobs, thinking he could do it all. He was like, I'm Batman now.
And they just went, no, see you later.
Yeah, but I think
mad.
something to do with Joel Schumacher just went, no thanks, mate.
Did not know that.
Had a bit of a fallout or something, apparently.
Interesting. I disagree.
But fair play. Yeah. I thought it would be a bit of like here and there.
Yeah.
I just thought it was an
Like,
interesting
Bruce
one to throw in
Wayne,
there.
to be fair, what you said and what you said.
Yeah,
Bruce
that's
Wayne,
probably what it's-
yeah, makes sense. But as Batman, no.
That's fair.
Took a penis.
I was just quite frankly interested in seeing what everyone else thought.
No, I
on that
like it. Leave it in the comments down below. Do you agree with what he said? Or do you disagree? And if you do agree or disagree, write a little sentence or two so we can actually read it instead of saying yes or no. That'd be very much appreciated. Right, on with the video. And today, as I've already said, is episode 4 of our Best Of series. And we are going to be talking about villains. And by villains, just to clarify, we are not just talking about the performance. Okay, the performances we can use as evidence to say why they are so good, but ultimately this is our opinion on who the best villain is in general. It can be from anything, anywhere, at any time. It's strictly villains. And I'm going to start us off. And I am confidently going to say that this villain is the best villain to ever grace film, television, radio, music, board games, video games, news articles, letters, postcards, T-shirts.
I'm pretty sure I can one-up all of them with mine, but okay.
Again,
Wrong. And that villain is Homelander from The Boys. And I'm very aware that you two haven't seen it, which is good to a certain extent because you cannot oppose me in any way, shape or form.
But you also want to spoil a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that's
No one will oppose
That's
you.
very true. I'll try not to include any spoilers, just character based. All right. So if you talk about Homelander, it bears the question: what would Superman be like if he was evil? And I tell you what, Homelander does an unbelievable job. Those that have seen The Boys, this is the most sadistic, complex, deep character development I've ever seen in a character ever. In TV series or film. There's so many layers to him, and as you go through the seasons, we're on seasons 3, you see so many different sides to him. A side that's sort of, he's invincible. He's literally invincible, and that's what makes him so scary. But we see as the series develop, he starts to lose his sanity. He goes from being this person who's controlled by image and money, but then as the seasons progress, he loses all control of who he is and what he was always done to just being absolutely mental. He's possibly the most unpredictable character, villain ever. You don't know whether he's going to kill someone, you don't know whether he's going to manipulate anyone, and it's genuinely scary to watch. When he's in the scene, like the performance again, Anthony Starr is amazing. The scenes, he says so much with his eyes. He doesn't even have to say anything, but just the way he looks, it changes the tone and the sense of what's happening in the scene. And I can't express enough just how amazing the performance is. Homelander is, in my opinion, the performance, okay, you're probably not going to beat Heath Ledger's Joker, but the development of the character, even in the comics as well, is just absolutely sensational. I love it.
Yeah, he's so like he's so threatening, and the tension when he's in a scene with someone and he's angry is just unreal because no one can stop him. If he's angry, and you're
Fucked.
Yeah, because you can't do anything to stop. He's like, but the way he has weaknesses to his character as well, and people try and exploit it to use him or beat him is kind of what makes him so good as a conflicting character as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
He's so mentally messed up that he's not got his shit together. He's not who he could be in terms of I don't know, just in terms of controlling situations more.
Yeah.
And it just makes the villain more compelling, and he's like one of the main characters, and you love him as a character but hate him in
Yeah, Homelander, I feel as well. They use him to explore like serious concepts as well in modern society and what we know society to be like. So the last series that we've just seen, he basically is Donald Trump, but it's Superman being Donald Trump, and it's so narcissistic.
Realistically, if someone had that much power, if you're basically saying he's evil Superman, then that's more than likely what would be the case anyway, isn't it? That's the scary thing.
Honestly,
about it.
and it finishes the series finishes with a brutal murder in front of hundreds of people, and I don't know, it's like fear, but then they start applauding because I think they're scared of him because he's just so imposing, so domineering, manipulating. He's genuinely the best villain ever. I'd easily say that.
I was thinking like what you're saying about with just using that as the description of the evil Superman is like that's literally like the thoughts that lead to characters like that being created. And it's like I don't know about like the source material or anything, but like clearly that kind of adaptation of the stuff that they're quite obvious inspirations because there's so many be it graphic novels or stuff that have done that where Watchmen's like the sort of go-to where it's like that was literally at the point where it's like, okay, we can't do this with these existing characters, let's tell this story that is just off. But with say something like Superman, it's like a lot of the time people's criticisms are stupid criticisms of this idea of his power and that being almost boring. It's like, no, it just means you've got to actually write well. And clearly one of the best experiments to do that is to do the whole what if he was evil, which is why characters like that,
Honestly,
a character like this is the rose to the top sort of thing.
The writing, I think that's what makes it so good. The writing's incredible. Like Anthony Starr's acting is incredible, but the writing's brilliant. Like I say, he's a narcissistic sociopath that's just the most unpredictable character you'll ever see on television. 1 minute it can be smiling, laughing, trying to earn viewers and supporters, the next he'll be brutally murdering whoever he wants because he can, but to manipulate people, and he's incredible, absolutely incredible, and you'd agree with me on that as well.
Definitely.
I mean,
He's like, you just don't know how they're going to beat him in the end. Like, there's just no way of doing it. Like you can't think of one. You just like, I don't know. I just can't wait to see how it will end.
As I say, they've tried everything thus far, but not succeeded, and we won't say any more than that because there's an episode coming.
I was going to say, is the series just finished?
You hanging they definitely have. Let's just put it that way. Homelander from the boys for me, 100%, definitely. Thomas,
all right,
what you got for us?
I mean, I could just talk about like far too many villains, because the thing about villains is like the thing that draws people to them is the fact that they're like relatable, or at least to me is like the fact that that's the danger in like when you've got something that's wrong, and that's why you almost get behind these like compelling villains, be it something that's you're just seeing these horrible things happening, but that's what keeps you coming back, and it's often then that you're carrying along with that conflict that the hero's going through, trying to come to terms with what's actually happening. So in thinking about that, it reminded me of Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
So what's his last name?
You can tell we've all grew up in Britain. His name is Roy Batty.
I'll take it all back. Yours is the best.
He's an android in Blade Runner, but also in the book it was not loosely based off, which is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And they are comparable characters. Obviously, you can see where Blade Runner clearly took the inspiration from, but Rutger Hauer's portrayal in Blade Runner is, you have to sort of treat it as separate, and it does sort of create that almost separation in the character where it is much more of a presence, in my opinion, whereas other characters maybe get spotlight in the book, which is credit to the book for its own ways. And again, this sort of like almost grey area of the villain, or the idea of the villain, and it's not just centred around one person, whereas in Blade Runner it's a lot easier to just put that focus on, right, you've got this one villain, he's the mastermind that's then affecting everything else. So to me, it is more that motivations and the reasons being genuinely good. Like, it's not that you understand where they're coming from. It's like, say something like a sort of like broad, accessible version, like say, of a villain, say like Thanos, where it's really appealing to people, and still it's one of those ones where you understand where they're coming from, because they've been plainly shown like the conditions of where they've come up with their ideas from. But it's not that they're actually good reasons, really. It's not like they're from like, it's not like it's a genuine good cause, just they think it's a good cause. Whereas, say the android's cause in Blade Runner is literally freedom, justice. It's this, you're basically having a being that's sentient, that's living like a slave, and you know that that's their existence, basically. So you can't help but get behind that, and that's what's interesting about like sci-fi concepts like AI in the first place. It's like, if we're getting to that point, and like if you're creating that, well then you have created life. If you're creating something that has that yearning for freedom, like anything human, and that's what makes the weird thing about that, is the fact that they're so human, and then against everything else in this sort of odd future landscape that you've got, the actual humans, it doesn't look quite human, because everything's off and jarring from what your real world is. Whereas these androids that are so like far beyond what we can think of are obviously acting the most simply human, because all they want to do is like live and actually be free. Just
to develop on something you've just said, I feel like AI and artificial intelligence is sort of, for sci-fi and fantasy, it is an extremely good basis to set a villain. Like with, it's like Ultron, probably one of the better MCU villains, that artificial intelligence, but that the scary nature of the fact that if an AI was to become human-like and make those decisions, it's fucking terrifying, because there's nothing that any one human can do really to stop what's happening, and it's like, what makes an AI villain terrifying is that sort of invulnerability.
Like, and I think that's one of my main points with the understanding of androids as a whole in this story, but obviously Roy in this in terms of how he leads that.
No, don't leave his last name out.
Roy Batty.
Thank you.
I know you just want to hear him say it all the time. Is the fact that he's the one to lead that charge and get things moving, but it really is the implications, and it's all implications really. Yeah, you see him on display, and you have that physicality in his performances, which is complemented by the real sort of like the emotional side to it, which you don't see in say some of the human characters.
Yeah.
Which again, comparing that, but it's the implications of what they can do, in the fact that these are like, yes, it's kind of like a slave thing, but it's not this sort of like cheap version where we make robot slaves to just do all our shitty jobs. It's like, no, they're clearly the more capable tools to say do the things that would actually put us in harm's way. So for the most part you can just say they're military tools, but at the same time that could be anything. It could be down to like mining, all these things, but the implications lead to something that is physically terrifying because they're clearly capable, durable. They're going to be hard to actually physically defeat.
It's a little bit,
but then you're giving them that.
It's similar to iRobot in a sense, like that. The film itself isn't great, but the concept is horrifying. And I'm thinking like what you've said about this villain is sort of thinking back to films like that, and the actual concept is terrifying, and if done properly, is like a villain that is genuinely worrying for everyone.
I mean, the simplicity in the AI thing in terms of like a villain is the fact that there's part of us that will always see that, even the people that want to push that for an actual future for the world. Yeah. There's always going to be that terror because it's the idea of like replacement and like what comes next. Whether it's a coexistence, it's literally what comes next, and people hate thinking about what comes next.
Yeah, 100%.
It points to human flaws as well in design, and could be foreshadowing what happens in like actual life. So it's like kind of terrifying in that aspect that it could actually be. Like genuinely could happen in our life. Well, not our lifetime. Maybe.
It might do.
Well, maybe.
Fucking don't.
Yeah, but do you know? But that's just mentioning it. The mere thought of it.
You're all just.
Anything to do with robots.
I just pooed myself.
Anything to do with robots or humanoid-like things is just like my worst fear. Apart from lifts.
But imagine a film. It's like it sort of
completely.
It sort of turns that film to have sort of horror aspects then. Yeah, because it sort of sets that worry into the audience.
And I always see that as the best sci-fi.
Yeah.
Is because like sci-fi isn't necessarily even like yes, it's probably to do with space, but like it's not like space, laser guns and like futuristic stuff.
100%.
It is that sort of thought basis sort of thing. It's more like consciousness sort of argument. That's one of the sort of sci-fi concepts that just sticks throughout.
Yeah.
But yeah, purely like in terms of like my connection to it, as much as I've enjoyed both adaptations of the character, like Blade Runner's where it really caught for me, and obviously Rutger Hauer's performance is what really does the work to connect that human relatability to it. And I mean, he's literally like. As much as I'm saying the whole relatability, the good reasons and stuff, like obviously does some horrific stuff, that's why he's a villain. But yeah, like the actual performance, I mean, we've mentioned Marvel a few times, but an 80s MCU, like he'd have been my Loki cast. It'd be so good.
Yeah, actually, that's a shout.
I like that. We like Roy Batty. We like Batty.
Yeah, Roy Batty.
we like Batty. Oh no! What are you doing?
It was bound to happen.
Oh no!
I
was waiting
to clarify the Roy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Otherwise it's weird.
I like that, Tom.
It's only weird if you make it.
We got well into that. That was deep. I like it. That was good.
You can maybe bring us back. One of you.
We'll go Matthew next. Okay. I know you've been struggling to decide. So who have you gone for?
It's hard, you know. It's there's so many good villains. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I've gone with Scarecrow as my personal favourite. Is that?
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, to be fair, when you talk about Batman villains, everyone goes Joker.
Yeah, I feel like
It's a refreshing
kind of-
choice.
It
Agreed.
feels like a disservice not to pick Joker because that is the most complex Batman villain in relation to Batman. But in terms of my personal favourite tropes of the characters, I feel like Scarecrow's fear element in what he can bring out of Batman in terms of exposing his weaknesses, what you can do in terms of like visuals in a film, or like just bring out creativity and different ways of showing his vulnerability and how he gets the upper hand in certain situations. And I feel like there's not been a proper film or TV show that's done Scarecrow justice yet.
Yeah, no.
He was good in the Nolan trilogy, but as a side character, he wasn't given the reins. Basically, he was kind of a puppet master for someone else, sort of thing.
Talking about performances, the best performances of Scarecrow are in the Arkham games.
Yeah.
For Batman, the storylines. I can't remember which one it is. Is it Arkham Knight?
Yeah, he's the main villain.
Whereas the main villain is brilliant.
Yeah,
really, really good. And that's sort of, I just want a film to see that side of him.
Yeah, when he takes over the whole city in fear gas toxins and he basically runs the whole whole city, and it's just the potential you have with Scarecrow to do stuff like that, but also not do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can have big, like, city threatening events, but you can also have just personal one-on-one, character moments with him, and it makes him unique in that way. And I feel like the way they're doing the Matt Reeves Batman films, it's perfect for Scarecrow to come in.
Yeah, actually.
And it just suits the tone of those films so well to add a sort of horror vibe to it, element to it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like when villains are like have that element. With Gore in Thor: Love and Thunder, when he had that kind of horror element, I was like, we need more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Scarecrow's the perfect. He's literally when you think of horror villains, he is the pinnacle. Well, he's probably the person you think of. Really.
With what you've just said, the tone of Matt Reeves' first film, hand in hand with Scarecrow, wouldn't it? Just lead into it so nicely.
It's crying out for him.
With everything that's happened as well, like the city's so vulnerable. Yeah. Oh, that would be amazing. I'd love that actually.
Yeah, and even down to like what you're saying with the whole, like you literally start with that is fear, and what's like one of the main identifying things that people talk about when they talk about Batman is fear, and so you've literally got that chain right there.
Not many people can challenge him like that, because a lot of, other than the Joker who does it kind of psychologically in terms of their sort of connection, kind of, the Batman resists, but the Joker insists is there. The other villains, whilst they can be threatening either physically or, from smarts or whatever, there's no character that can really challenge his. It just challenges like vulnerability in that sense.
I was just about to say that next. The fact that Scarecrow can make anyone, any villain, any superhero be so vulnerable at one point and just feel like they're losing. With the Joker, for instance, you never feel like the Batman's as vulnerable as he could be, like at his lowest, whereas Scarecrow, I mean, looking at the Arkham games, you see that. You see Batman literally on the verge of losing. So I think you're absolutely bang on there.
Yeah, I'd love to see what they did with Arkham Asylum in a film. I don't know if any of you have played it.
No.
There's a scene where you walk through the corridor in Arkham, in the prison cell, and he's like, the way he kind of takes over those scenes. As you're playing it, you're like, I was shitting myself. Basically, I was shitting myself, and there's just so much potential to do that in a film, and I feel like that would be unique for a Batman film to come out, and I've wanted that for a while. And Scarecrow in Gotham TV show, he's done so poorly.
Me and you both agree on that, don't we?
And they just need. I'm just crying out for a proper treatment of him, because they have potential to be one of the best villains on screen for comic book villains.
And even with that fear and like in the villain itself, and like you're saying, it's that horror aspect. We've all been saying about it's terrifying, and that's obviously, it seems like a go-to thing to think of when you think about villains, but as much as I was saying the draw can be the relatability, but that's the fear in that, is the fear that you're so close yourself from being the villain. So again, coming back to Batman, that is that unique thing of like how close he like inseparably is from the villains. But as far as villains on the whole, it's a good example of the fact of, yeah, we do need that almost resurgence in monsters being monsters, villains actually being villainous. Because I don't mind, say, like either the redemption, like the odd redemption kind of story. If that's the point, and they're not trying to lead you on to think, oh, they're a villain, are we going to save them? But then also there's the times where it's like that. It's almost already become a cliche with how constant it's been in a lot of movies recently, where you just get that kind of villain of perspective sort of thing, where you're just on the wrong side of it for half the movie, and then all of a sudden you realise, oh, we're on the wrong side. The villains aren't actually bad.
That's another point I was going to make.
So I want an actual...
He's not necessarily a compelling villain like most good villains are.
Yeah.
But he's psychotic and clever as well with the way he manipulates his plans for whatever he's doing. He's like, because obviously he's what is he what's it called? I can't remember the word now. Psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
Like that what he is?
Yeah, there you go.
I can't remember.
That's what.
Psychiatrist.
That makes sense. I don't know.
And yeah, so he's obviously really clever, but he's also mental. So it just goes well together, and for a villain to be like that, and not, I don't know. There's some villains don't suit the compelling arc where you kind of feel for them. You just need them to be evil for their own reasons and not understand why, and just enjoy what they're putting on screen.
That's what I meant about the whole like understanding thing. Like understand is fine, but it's just like that's it. It's like you understand it doesn't mean there's like connection to that. So yes, if it's good reasons or if it's absolutely horrible reasons, it's better than just being able to go like, oh, I get why this person does this, because you could do that with anything.
Yeah,
it's like
I like it. 3 very good villains so far: Homelander, Batty, and Scarecrow. Whoa, guide us in. Stand there on the runway, just with your big glow sticks. Who have we got?
Well, I already mentioned this movie earlier, and it's specifically Arnold Schwarzenegger's. I can't even go with it. I thought I could. No, obviously it's not.
Well, you said it. I've gone, what?
I could literally see it dropping in your eyes, and I was like, he's gonna love this one.
The puns are really good.
It is.
It's unique.
It's your boy Vader, Darth Vader, obviously. Who else was it gonna be?
Yeah,
yeah. I think when you were saying about the greatest villain in everything earlier, I think Vader does sort of take the cake. Really, he's got the theme tune. He's got a fucking theme tune, for Christ's sake, when he comes on screen.
Jesus,
that's a big part.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ's sake, if he walked in this room right now, what would you do?
Do you know what? If all of our villains were to walk into this room, I'd be more scared of mine, but also just the sheer what the fuck's going on. We're all going to die. Let's kiss.
Well, Batty.
If Batty's here, we're having a great time. Roy, come on.
Yeah, so just purely from the sheer imposing nature of him for a start, that's a given.
Yeah. You tick the lot boxes up,
I mean, to me, he's just the sort of pinnacle villain. He sort of set the mark back in the day, really, didn't he?
Yeah, we talk about
from that initial scene of him in A New Hope. I mean, just imagine actually being there, watching that in the cinema the first time back in the 70s, and not going in obviously completely cold, and him walking through that door. Like, that just always has got me anyway.
Do you know what? I feel like Kenobi as a series has helped further Vader as that type of villain, because instances like episode 3, the street scene, just killing people.
That's one of the most
mercilessly, and you're just like, fuck yeah, sound. Do you know what? Yeah,
that's
I
what.
Like it.
Even though I know those characters are going to make it through, because all the important characters, because obviously they get to the films. 100%. I haven't just purely from Vader in that scene. I've never watched anything in recent times where I felt that tense.
Well, you
watching him walk
yeah.
down the street.
Well,
He
you
has
don't.
that much power in him.
Yeah.
You don't see him ever really as sadistic
No.
until Kenobi,
Yeah.
where he literally
Yeah.
is just
It's all just
inflicting pain
Yeah.
for enjoyment, for the sake of it, to show his
Mm-hmm.
power. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
you hear
all
about it,
referred
but
to-
you don't
yeah,
see it
Exactly.
until then.
Like literally that one episode, I think the 4th one. Like just after that, he's in it for like a minute maybe. He walks down a corridor, and the way he just walks down that corridor into the room, it was like, there we go. He's won the whole episode
Yeah.
for me
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
away just by that. It was genuinely terrifying, just that one little minute. Because I was literally like, it's like I was in the room. I was like, shit. Like, obviously the whole force choke thing afterwards. It's just classic. But holy shit, yeah. Sorry, he was the best part of Kenobi. He was brilliant. The whole. Well, his whole tragic story for a start does it for me. We're all a bit Vader, really. We've all got a bit of it. We
Are
don't.
we?
Oh, we know.
Killing.
Well,
Well,
not that far. But we all do.
Massacred anything.
All right, if
to
you
be
summarise
fair.
it down a bit,
Oh, to be fair, for Natalie Portman,
we.
I wouldn't take much convincing. I'd eat a hammer. I've said it before. I'll say it again.
Okay, he's taking a turn back to Darth Vader.
So he's like, oh no, like in his actual story though, like the whole thing with Anakin, like it's the way he goes with stuff. Like he has this weird childhood being brought up, where he's not actually processing stuff that's going on because he's forced into these weird ways in his life. He starts off as a slave from like till he's like 9, then he's basically put into a cult.
Yeah.
Quite frankly,
Yeah.
I think in
where
hindsight,
he's
it's
constantly
predictable as anything that
Yeah.
he becomes what he becomes.
Yeah, exactly. It's and seeing that way he builds it up to become Vader. Obviously, being told for your whole life you're this special thing, and then at the same time being completely shat on all the while
Yeah.
by your superiors.
Yeah.
It's just. I mean, I suppose it's a pretty typical story with him.
But
It's pretty obvious, but it just.
to me, that's the point from what you were first saying, is like any one of us could have said Vader for any number of reasons, but the fact is, it's like on a real bare bones level in terms of just like the structure of what Star Wars is and what it was probably to begin with, be it George Lucas's just love of film or just all these sort of harking back to different things. He's literally crafted to be the best villain, if you like. So it's almost obvious. It's like, yes, all the films and lore that's come after that is built on that, but really what it came down to was that the execution of that idea. So it is quite simple, but that's almost the point.
It's like how I think the scary thing with him is how easy he was sort of manipulated in it as well.
Yeah.
Because like he was essentially is like the situation. He had good intentions of what he wanted to do. He wants to save Padme, and then it's so because we can all get on that. It's like everyone tries to do the whole good intentions thing, and it's like, oh shit, how easy he can get manipulated into that.
From saying that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Darth Vader as a villain, yeah, brilliant. But you could also argue that Darth Vader isn't even the best villain in the Star Wars franchise. That's like when we're talking about best of, and I get it, I agree, but also I could argue it in the sense that, well, Palpatine's got to be in the conversation also, surely.
And it's almost like
gets everyone else to do all this fucking doing.
Yeah, but
Isn't that what makes him so?
I think that's almost like the point as well in the fact that it's all to do with Vader. Like I almost agree in that sense, and even with characters like Maul, like where you've got another sort of tangent off, but it almost wouldn't be what it'd be without Vader. Like, and again, that comes down to just why it's there on a really practical level in terms of writing and stuff. Like he exists for that purpose.
I feel like Palpatine's a villain of the prequels more than the originals, and Vader's more of the villain of the originals than Palpatine, because Palpatine's only in the last original film.
In terms of like the actual
I
appearance,
think
yeah.
he does one hologram in the film,
Yeah.
I think, but I think he's only actually in the last one. So I feel Vader's the presence of the original trilogy, and the prequel trilogy is how Palpatine managed to corrupt him. So I feel like Vader does have the moments where he is the main villain through the films. So yeah,
I'm not saying he's not the main villain. I'm just saying
into Star Wars and say, and not to talk about best of villains. If you were just dive into Star Wars, then of course you're going to end up going through that.
Yeah. Look, it was just a slander comment thrown at him.
But yeah, I mean,
Well,
with
like
the
Palpatine, I'll be honest with you. Never have.
Really?
Yeah,
With-
don't like him.
Interesting.
I really like
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think
never been. So.
Episode 9 brings him down a little bit, but
yeah.
Yeah, that really just put the fucking nail in the coffin on that one.
With Kenobi, actually, I was saying in terms of getting the stuff that we've not really seen outside of stuff that wasn't taken seriously, be it video games, comics, anything like that, where everyone always knew this stuff could happen and everyone would talk about it even before they had any experience of that. But now we've actually had that sort of solidified sort of piece that brings two eras together. That already did its work, but I feel like, again, we've already been sort of spoiling it, we've already done a review on it, but with the slash in the helmet, and it's, I think the gap really, even as much as everyone gets on board with it, loves Vader, loves the story, you still can't really get past the transition, how quick it is from going between Anakin and all of a sudden Vader, that people sort of, it is jarring. When you're enjoying it, but when you actually start to think about it for more than a second, you go, yeah, they just always seem like separate people. Having that glimpse and having that connection, it's really simple, and it wouldn't have lasted just with a glance, just with seeing it. It had to be the combination of seeing it, the interaction between them, the importance of what was going on. But the fact that that's there, literally, that's the bit that knits everything together. Not the fact that it's just, what was Kenobi doing in this little gap? Did he go on a little adventure or something? Like, that could have been anything. But the fact that they had that bit was like, okay, Anakin is Vader. Like, it's not like they're these two separate things anymore.
Yeah. No, I like it. Obviously, there's honourable mentions because Jesus, when we talk about villains, you've got a plethora to choose from, such as the Joker, the Gollum, Kingpin from the Daredevil series as well, which should be in any conversation. I mean, is there any other honourable mentions you want to throw out there? Just reel off.
How do you say his name? Hans Lander from Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Hans Lander.
Yeah.
Is that how you say
Christoph
it?
Waltz's
Yeah,
character.
he's unreal. I really wanted to say him, but
He's acting much.
I can obviously say all of them. John Doe from Seven, I think, has got to be up there.
Yeah, brilliant. It's really, really good. Completely forgot about that. Anyone else?
Yeah, could do like a few recommendations again. I've just properly read through Watchmen, but I don't, as much as it's not, I wouldn't say it's a spoiler in terms of, I think it's kind of obvious, it's meant to be obvious. The whole point of that story is just go read Watchmen, as much as I say, I know you probably either see the film, read it, whatever. If you're looking for a good villain.
Who's the villain in The Watchmen?
The whole point of why I wasn't really getting into it.
Got you.
But I don't see it as much of a spoiler because I specifically knew going into it, but I feel like it is partly more enjoyable. It's the story.
Got you.
It's to do with the villain, but I think the other recommendation is another read, which is Prince Robot IV in Saga. Which I had the book to just actually show you. That's written by Brian K. Vaughan, who did. I think he wrote Lost. A few other things.
Oh shit, he might have
He writes a hell of a lot. But the artwork is like one of my favourite things.
We are getting like TV. We get a show with that.
Well, they're doing the TV show on Amazon Prime of Paper Girls.
That was the one.
So that made me basically think, okay, if they're doing some of these adaptations, it scares me that they might
We're
be
gonna
a
get some.
saga live action.
I'm going to ruin it, or we're going to get some fucking good TV soon.
I'm forgetting villains from films. The Grabber from The Black Phone.
Oh,
was really good. What's one from Everything Ever All at Once? Jojo Tobacco.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
I completely forgot. Do you know what I mean?
Relatable thing. But
things like that. Just so we got.
Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Jesus Christ.
Joffrey Baratheon. There's loads.
That little bastard.
Genuinely, I feel like we've just scratched the surface here. But best of, we've got Roy Batty, Darth Vader.
You're enjoying that.
I love it, mate. Roy Batty, Darth Vader, Homelander, and Scarecrow. I feel like when you're talking about best of, I feel that's a hell of a foursome. Let's just put it there. So right, we'll wrap it there because we generally could make this video 7 days long, but we won't. We'll leave it there. And yeah, thanks for watching. Who's your favourite villain? Leave it down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and as I said before, ring James's bell. And we've got a TikTok, an Instagram, and a Facebook that we are active on. So get involved, get engaging, comment, like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. But give us some interaction. Talk to us. Let us talk back to you. But don't make it slander, because then things might get nasty. Because James is an angry man.
Yes.
Right, see you later, guys. See you in the next one.